What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. Check them out. But first, stay on this one. I think this is a pretty, not super important, obviously. None of my videos are life or death important. I mean, you know what? Some of them might be. I don't know. It depends on how you categorize what life and death truthfully means. All right. I didn't know we were starting this video like this. Let's get right into it. So, you read the title, you saw the thumbnail. This time, it is not a review, all right? Solely my opinions, all right? These are not paid opinions either. I have to specify that. I don't know if you guys have checked out my subscriber count. I am in no way, shape, or form even close to big enough for them to be paying me to say this. But my opinions on the brand, the brand basically, Palmetto State Armory, all right? So, Palmetto State Armory, or PSA, is a gun shop essentially that is based out of North Carolina, I believe it is. That part I could be mistaken on, actually. It might be South Carolina. It's one of the Carolinas. I'm not great with the Carolinas or really the Virginias. I'm not great with that. Don't look at me sideways. Don't make fun of me. All right? I know. I'm stupid. I mean, some things I'm not the best at. I'll accept it. Whatever. I can fix it later. All right. So, with that being said, actually, I believe it was South Carolina now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know why I said North. I believe it was South Carolina now. So, enough with the rambling. All right. PSA, they make some pretty quality guns for the price. I will say that right now. PSA is a brand that, my entire AR-15 build is made out of that. I just did a review on. Go ahead and check that out. And it is the brand that made my dagger. All right, so I also just did a review on that as well, a 500-round review. Go ahead and check that out. But overall, I'm going to be discussing my opinions on the products they make, their quality control, their customer service, and their motivation for being the company that they are. Because I believe that that is one of the most important things that a lot of people overlook when it comes to talking about a brand or a company. So let's get into it. All right. Actually, I will firstly be speaking about their reputation before I get into any of that. So, firstly, their products, all right, are not known for being the best. That's part of their reputation. They are known for being a cheaper gun company. That's what they're just known for in the gun community. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing considering their purpose of being a company, according to them, which I will get into later in the video. All right. So let's just say this right now. Some of their products are not low end or shitty at all. They're not all super cheap or anything along those lines. They do sell some pretty high end shit as well. All right. People overlook that because a lot of people who get PSA stuff, they're getting the cheaper end of stuff, and then they move up to higher brands like BCM, things along those lines. So I can see why people only see PSA as a cheaper company, designating them as that. I can see where that would come from. They do have products such as the Jackal or the Saber, for example, that are $1,000+ are pretty solid rifles from all the reviews and all the research I've done and what I've seen. All pretty solid rifles, all have functioned amazingly, and I would honestly even say some of them up to par with some of the even more expensive rifles that are above that price range. So with that being said, they're not just a cheap gun company. They don't only make cheap guns. Now, do they make cheap guns? Hell yeah, they do. Hell yeah. My dagger, which is a Glock clone, I paid less than $400 for. I basically paid for the price of a used Glock for a brand new Glock clone. You see what I mean here? So they make some, pretty quality cheap products here. My AR build right here couldn't, including taxes and everything else, and my upgraded charging handle, couldn't have been more than $700. That's including my flip up sights, could not have been more than $700. And all of it has functioned amazingly. I will now this partially. I will get into that actually. So this is where it has to go into their quality control. My dagger had some issues. All right. These were issues that were able to get fixed. That, since they got fixed, I didn't even have to send it off to get fixed. They told me how to fix it at home. Once I got it fixed, it was all good. All handled, functioned beautifully, just like how it should. But it does raise some questions, and that's where, something like their customer service has made up for it. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. I should have grabbed my dagger actually before I started this video, but I didn't because I'm a little lazy. Whatever. Had a long week, got married. But on the vertical trigger bar, there was a little nub that you will see there. That little nub was preventing the trigger from resetting. Now, this may not seem like a big deal when you just say it out loud, but for those who actually know what preventing the trigger from resetting means, it means that I essentially had a bolt action Glock. I had to sit here, or I mean, you could argue pump action, I guess, I don't know, rack action in this case. I had a single shot pistol. I had to sit here and, I took this out on a big range day back in October when I first got it through a Gen 3 Glock 19 slide, because it is a product solely made for Gen 3 Glock 19 parts, or Gen 3 Glock parts at least. Actually, no, Gen 3 double stack 9mm Glock parts. But as I was getting into, I fired one round and I'm like, okay, I like how the trigger felt off that. I'm going to go ahead and release. And I noticed prior to taking it to the range that it was having trouble resetting. I threw my Glock 23, my Glock 23 slide on it. And with that on there, it had less problems resetting. But when I contacted PSA about it, they informed me, oh, well, it is technically only made for, Gen 3 Glock 19 parts. Now, that kind of caused a confusion in my head because, well, these models aren't exactly too different. They're just chambered in different calibers. I can throw a Gen 3 Glock 23 slide on a Gen 3 Glock 19 frame and it'll function perfectly. So, I don't know how, but I will say when I did throw, the Gen 3 Glock 23 slide on it, I would try to put a 40 mag in it, of course, or Glock 23 mag, Glock 22 mag, whatever, 40 calibered Glock mag, and it would be a tighter fit. The trigger I noticed was heavier. It was weird, but I guess they were 100% correct when they stated it is created and will function best with Gen 3 Glock 19 parts. Not even Glock 19 parts, but it was modeled after that. So, regardless, my whole point is that the vertical trigger bar, back to what I was getting to, that nub on there prevented the trigger from resetting. So when I was at the range, I got the first round off and I, trigger did not reset. Racked the slide back, trigger didn't reset still. Racked the slide back again, trigger reset. So I was like, okay, shot that round off. I was hoping that maybe, the slide being racked back from the round going off, right, would allow the trigger to reset, but it did not. I also noticed that if you, for example, you notice how when you go to test where a trigger resets, that you have to keep your finger on the trigger when you rack the slide. Doing that would have prevented the trigger from resetting as a whole. There's no debating that. But I contacted PSA, and this is where their customer service makes up for their quality control. I asked them about this issue, if this was something that was very common. They said it's not super, super common. It has happened, though, a couple of times. So it's not something that they haven't heard of. All right. Which made me feel good about the situation, at least, because if it was a situation that's unheard of to them, they're like, oh fuck, we've never experienced this, I probably wouldn't have been able to get shit fixed. But they simply told me that nub that's on the vertical trigger bar, you're going to want to file or grind it down however you can, get it basically to where it's flush. Our pistol expert says there hasn't been a single time where it hasn't worked. had it done, and sure enough, it has worked beautifully since then. That's when I officially did my 500 round review, because I didn't count those, couple of rounds that I was able to fire off that one day at the range in October, because I just wasn't able to really do anything other than 2 rounds. I'm not going to count that. You see what I mean? That's how most companies test their guns, is by firing 2 rounds. So I didn't count that really, but not a big deal, whatever. So yeah, it raises a question of their quality control. Why would they even continue making the product with that nub, knowing that can cause that issue? But it does say a lot about their customer service. Their customer service got back to me the day I texted them, not even an hour. I messaged them on Instagram. I didn't call them. I didn't do any of that. I messaged them on Instagram, and they responded in less than an hour. That's how I've always contacted their customer service, actually. They have continuously, responded fast, and they've given me some accurate information on how to solve the problems I'm having. Now, if I had issues with orders, they've gotten it handled. If I have questions about orders, they've always gotten it handled. So I can say, while the quality control sometimes may lack, it's not to say that all their products are bad in any way, shape, or form. I have 2 very reliable products. One of them had some issues with quality control because of the little nub on the vertical trigger bar. But as I said, customer service swooped in, told me how to fix it, and it got fixed, and it works beautifully. No doubt about it. Now, as I said before, that really does raise the question of why would they continue making it? That is on them as a company. I'm sure there are a bunch of, daggers out there that have that little nub on the vertical trigger bar, and they have no problems with their trigger resetting or anything along those lines. So I'm sure maybe it's like, oh, well, it accidentally was pressed out just a tiny bit too much. Whatever, not a big deal in any way, shape, or form, considering I got it fixed, and then I had 500 rounds through it of several different types of ammo with no issues. Now, last but not least, because as I said before, I went over their reputation, some of their products, their quality control, customer service. Now, last but not least, their purpose as a company. What they have stated their purpose as a company, and why they are the company that they are, is they want to arm as many Americans as possible. If they could arm every American, that I'm sure they would. All right, which I'm not against. But they want to arm as many Americans as possible. They want as many Americans as possible to exercise their Second Amendment right. They've openly stated this several times. This is something that if you look into the company, they have openly talked about plenty of times over. So I believe that itself makes them a company that's worth looking into. If you're not, if you don't buy products from them, it's fine. It's whatever. If you're not buying guns that's made by them, okay, yeah, sure. It's worth looking into the guns, at least seeing if they're worth it, because it's a company that does value your values. You see what I mean? Their values and your values align. So me personally, when I found that out, that is something that made me say, okay, yeah, I do want to, actually take a look at some of their products, see if they have good deals, whatever. You know what I mean? But that itself did mean a lot to me. I don't know about you guys, but some of y'all it might mean something to, some of y'all it might not. With that being said, and as just a final, thought on that part right there, that right there, their purpose of being a company and why they chose to do what they do shows a lot more, shows a higher level of patriotism than any little commemorative Glock that they've done. Something actually that I didn't mention is, on top of their values, they are very well known for, having some customized Glocks for our president, or at least not our current president, former and then soon to be again president Donald Trump. They've had a couple of, they've actually had a couple of, Trump models that they were selling that it's cool, whatever. I'm not going to get into all that because that's a whole nother point. Great company though, great products. The ammo I've gotten from them has been great priced. Quality control can be a bit iffy, I will say that without a doubt. That's not to say all their products are bad though, or that, you shouldn't check them out, see for yourself. But it is to say that if it is a quality control issue, it's probably not anything that their customer service can't handle. My overall opinion of the company is a pretty high opinion. But as I said, I'm just some guy who, I'm just some guy on YouTube. You know what I mean? I'm just some guy on YouTube. My experience with them have been great. I know some people have had horrible experiences with them. Are they the best out there? Probably not. Most definitely not. However, they are definitely doing their thing. It is a pretty solid company, especially for the prices that you can get products at. With that being said, I think that about wraps it up for this video. I don't want to go in circles. Y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And because you agree with me, PSA is a decently solid brand. All right. And I don't know if y'all figured it out. I wanted to do this video after I did some PSA product reviews. Y'all go ahead and make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.